Our esteemed speaker, Samantha Perry, is going to be sharing her experience of walking towards Advaita Vedanta. At 18 years of age, she enlisted in the United States Navy and served honorably for 4 years before commencing her higher education at Pensacola State College in Florida. Concurrently embarking upon a career in zoology. Subsequently, she transitioned into public service, serving steadfastly within the health department, where she continues to contribute her efforts today. Despite enduring numerous traumatic life events, she exhibited resilience and sought her inner truth. Her transformative journey began through engagement with ayahuasca, propelling her swiftly into a deep spiritual practice known as sadhana, culminating in a profound reconnection with her guru. As her sadhana progressed, it led to a pivotal realization of the self. So now I'd like to invite Darren and Samantha to share their experience with all of us. And as I said, this is a community circle. So all the audience is welcome to join the speakers, ask questions, share their thoughts. Let this be an informal exchange of experiences and elicitation of knowledge and understanding. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ruby.
Thank you.
Hi, Samantha. Did you
There
want
we
to
go. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, yes.
Yay. Hi. Hello again. Yep. Yeah. So, wow. It's nice to see you again. Yay. Gosh. And for everyone who might not know this, Darren and I think I do remember seeing you at Soul Quest. We both went to this ayahuasca church in Orlando, Florida, where it's where you actually can legally take ayahuasca as part of the sacrament of the church. And so we both happened to, hear me okay? Okay. Like you're nodding, okay. So yeah. So most of these people that they come into the ayahuasca, in case you guys didn't know, most people are coming from a background where they have addictions, they've got trauma, and the medicine is it's amazing to help such a wide. But every once in a while, you get a tiny segment of people that aren't coming for traumas and addictions. They're coming and they actually are looking for the truth. They want the truth. I didn't even know why I was going to ayahuasca. I really didn't. I just felt compelled. I don't even remember how I stumbled across it. How about you, Darren? Do you remember how you came? Did you find it online?
Yes, I did. I had heard.
Is there a delay?
Okay. Yeah. You got, I think, a bandwidth problem there, Samantha. But yeah, like I said last night, I had heard about people working with different medicines for help with addictions, and like I said, I studied it for quite a while, and that's what brought me to the medicine originally. Was looking for help to break these addictions that I had been dealing with in my life, but then, as you said, it got to a point once I healed these addictions and healed these other traumas in my life, I began to look deeper, for the truth. I began to look towards, some of the Eastern traditions, and what was going on with those, they seem to, just seem so vastly different than the Western traditions, the big three. So I mean, it brought me in and deeper and deeper as time went on, and I began to realize how, I mean, it seemed to me how just how deep and how the truth was there, for us to see and to understand and to experience, more than anything, direct experience, like it says in the Gita, and you'll hear in other places too. Direct experience, is what gets you. You experience this directly, and I think most often, it'll put the hook in you, and you keep following this and studying this. So.
Yeah, this is the most, they say it's the most powerful spiritual medicine in the world, that she's called the mother teacher, and she's powerful. So what, I was curious, like, what did your personal experiences, which came first? Was it Advaita Vedanta that came first, or ayahuasca that came first?
Oh no, the Aya first.
Okay.
Ayahuasca first, yeah. I think prior to the ayahuasca, my spirituality was pretty much non-existent. I was raised Catholic, and came to realize, the way the Catholic Church was putting things, to me, I wasn't buying it as I got older. When I was younger, it was okay, but as I got older, and then even what really, I think, ended it for me was when I went to college and I took a world civilizations course, and I learned, all these other countries in the world, had their own different religions, and I'm Catholic only by virtue of where I was born, and these other people are whatever by virtue of where they were born. Who's to say which one is right?
Right.
Like I had a hard time thinking, God is going to banish these people because they weren't born in the West. They were born in the East, and God's going to banish them to hell because they're not, what I mean? So
Right,
that didn't
it's
go
that
well. So, yeah. So it
Wow.
kind of left me hanging, kind of left me with, nothing to hold on to, nothing firm to hold on to, and then, when the ayahuasca came, and that changed overnight for me, that changed overnight. I began to believe in, in the spiritual realm and spirituality, and it's, made all the difference for me in my life. It's given me a direction and purpose in my life, as we're to prior to that, I was just kind of floundering around, not really knowing what I wanted to do with life, and but this gave me definite direction, definite purpose in life, and to the point where now today, it's I don't know, like the main part of my life. I live it every day. I live Advaita Vedanta every day. I study every day, and
Wow.
So it's the one true reality. You come to realize that, and like I said, it puts the hook in you. So
It's the reason. It's the use of reason, and your own direct experience. And that's really what it. And all in mine, I didn't have the scripture background. I've never cracked a spiritual book. Everything that was experienced was, as a lot of us, as you're kind of starting to understand, is a lot of very astounding experiences, but yet they all seem to coincide with, very much so, with Advaita Vedanta, with things that you read about in Advaita Vedanta. And I hear the secondhand, I hear the second, third hand, wherever, I read quotes from sages, and they mention stuff about Advaita Vedanta scriptures, Upanishads. I've audibly listened to the Ashtavakra Gita, the Ribu Gita, Elam Andre, Avadhut Gita. Oh, I love that one. But I had to listen to it audibly. I can't read it. I can't tolerate reading anything. I don't know what is this incarnation. Absolutely no reading. I couldn't even read my master's book, Nanyar. I got the Nanyar book, and I literally just keep it for the pictures on my puja. I have to have my puja, but I just need the pictures. I couldn't tolerate even reading that. Like, no. Everything must be from within the heart. Even when I had encountered people, respectable people, during my first, year or so of ayahuasca work, because I worked with ayahuasca for 2 years. I even had people who flat out told me, you can't destroy ego. And I just let that go in one ear and out the other. I'm like, they don't know because they've never tried. and they've never had, like, really tried. Have they really tried? No. So they don't know. I don't, but I need to know. I need to know, can this be done? Can this be done? Is there a textbook, cookbook way to do this? Is there rules for this? Is there a way? Because I became obsessed with it about a year into ayahuasca. After about a year of ayahuasca, I realized that this was sadhana. This was the beginning of sadhana. She'd already put me on the sattvic diet. And I realized now in hindsight, I know she was grooming me for getting ready to be reunited with my master, with my guru from the previous incarnation. And I wouldn't remember that part until after realization, after the heart went silent. But yeah, that first ayahuasca ceremony, they laid everything out, and it was too much. It was too much to, huh?
You were very fortunate in them early years to drink where you did, that experience you had, where you had it. Yeah, that must have been amazing.
Because I told you about that. I can certainly recount it for everyone if they. It's a very okay. Typically, if you were to take ayahuasca, results vary.
Yeah, for sure.
But they're going to be as specific to you as your own fingerprint. They're going to be tailor-made to you because she already knows you. She already knows what you need. She knows everything about you. You can't hide anything from her. She's going to pull up old memories. She's there. Oh yeah. So whatever happens is specific for what you need. And with this one, I actually had to write that integration down because it was so off the wall. It was so unusual, even for ayahuasca users. I've never met anyone else in ayahuasca who'd had that. And it was all part of a bigger picture. Wow. So yeah, the first night, it was like 6.5 years ago. I had taken ayahuasca. I actually wrote this down. I could read it because I'm like, oh my gosh, it was such a it was such a wow. I couldn't even discuss this with a lot of people. I finally wrote this down recently because I couldn't discuss it with people because they simply couldn't relate. Even people who've done ayahuasca for years, they could not relate to this at all. And because this is a previous life as an Indian man. That's where it came from. I was the previous life as an Indian. Before that, I was an Indian woman. And I've been working on this for a while. Whatever. But 6.5 years ago, I tried ayahuasca for the first time at Soul Quest. I purposely had avoided reading or watching too much about it, as I truly wanted to have my own experiences and not be biased or tainted by the experiences of others. Last thing I ever want to hear, and this goes for the whole life, I don't want to hear someone else's. I don't want their junk in my head. I want my own experiences, and that was innate. That was innate coming in this life.
No
I want my own experience. Yeah. So when I arrived, Chris Young had asked me how I heard about Soul Quest, and honestly, I couldn't remember. I laughed and said, or he laughed and said, that's funny how the medicine calls you sometimes. And I didn't know what he meant by that yet.
Yeah.
There are almost 20 of us there that weekend, just a few volunteers. And that was a big ceremony back then. This is back in 2017, early 2017, I think. So we were all on our cots at night, and we drank that, like you said yesterday, that is one disgusting. It doesn't taste bad the first time you take it. It really doesn't taste that bad, but it tastes worse every time you take it. And that's a defense mechanism, so you don't abuse the medicine.
Yeah.
It really is. Usually humans, we get acclimated to things we drink often, but not this. This is the other way around. That's how powerful she will not let you abuse her medicine.
Exactly.
She has her consciousness. This is the consciousness of the planet. It's like a cell phone to the planet. And every session I had with her was like a darshan. It was like darshan. It was like PowerPoint with questions at the end, time for questions at the end. It was like this, like she was giving the lecture, and I would do whatever she says. Holy smokes. But so yeah, before that, when I first took the medicine for the very first time, I fought it. Like a lot of people fight it. I sat up and I was talking to people, and I wouldn't go down. Nope. And I was afraid of the purge, and I was making fun of people that were puking, and woo, the arrogance was off the chart. It was great. Woo, because boy, you get busted down at some point. So I fought the medicine, and eventually I decided to relax and just see what happens. I finally laid down, And at first I saw Chris and a couple of the staff members in a black and white scene, and they're throwing money in the air and they're laughing. And I'm thinking, I got so duped. This is a stupid party drug. I paid hundreds of dollars to be here, because back then it was only a few $100s, believe it or not. So yeah, because it was a small church at the time. So I said, I'm just going to enjoy the high. I've done drugs before in high school. I've done LSD, whatever. I'll just enjoy the high, and I'm just not going to come back. And so immediately that vision disappeared, that black and white disappeared, and I got sucked deep. She just, boom. And then it wasn't her that appeared, it was the Buddha. I was not raised Buddha in this incarnation. I'm not sure if I was Buddhist or Hindu in the previous incarnation. I don't remember, and maybe I never will. I don't know. But there was the Buddha himself had come, and I knew nothing about, I've never read anything about Buddha. I told you, no spiritual books in this entire incarnation. I'm a virgin. I'm a spiritual virgin. Really, I've never even been baptized. No, wouldn't allow it. So the Buddha appeared, and I was absolutely shocked. And he stated, like he's just reading like the weather script, that this was the incarnation where ego was to be destroyed and to end all suffering. And I was to embark on helping others and some other stuff. I really did forget what he said. I was just blown away. So what is going on? Yeah. And he showed some kind of timeline. I don't really remember. And it doesn't matter, really. It doesn't really matter. It's, time. Just, yeah. He said that Pachamama was to be my teacher for the time being. And then he vanished. And then it was very quiet, very dark. And then there was, I could still remember the vivid purple explosion. I mean, she made an entrance. She was a goddess. Wow. And she came in and she's like, I am your mother. I am the mother of all of you. And she showed the whole planet with all the little spots of lights, every single one. There was so many, everyone was a human. And she said, you are all my babies and I am your mother. And she's, yeah, so she made such an entrance. I was like, I'm in front of her. She's real. She's, oh my God, she's a goddess. And I did, and that's the way it seemed at the time. And I would just, it was to get that commanding respect, so that I would listen to anything she told me to do. And you betcha, whatever in the following 2 years, anything she told me to do, I jumped. I did whatever without question. I did it. But that was part of the teaching. She was starting to plant the seeds of surrender, which is one of the 2 teachings of my master, self-inquiry and self-surrender. Yeah. And the surrender is the hard one, they say, but it was the easiest for this one. Anyway, so after she introduced herself, everything got really quiet again, and very, very quiet. And all of a sudden, I mean, it was the you know it when you hear it. It's coming from inside you, and it's everywhere, and it was just and it was just coming through. It was like a switch flipped, and I said it was like that scene in the Back of the Future where Marty, the first Back to the Future, when he plugs in that electric guitar and he turns it on, and wham, that was exactly, but it wouldn't stop. It was just going, and I was like, and it was I'd never read anything about this. I'd heard maybe in some movies or TV or something about it. And I knew what it was. And it was actually quite terrifying. It was coming from everywhere. I thought my skull was going to be ripped apart. I really did. I thought I tried clenching my jaw because I thought my teeth were going to actually snap. They were hitting each other so hard, and so I clenched my teeth, and then I thought my jaw was going to actually rattle off. The was just so, and it was, this is not a soft, gentle thing. This is something you're not going to forget. So it was just, I was crying out help, but I knew I was making the words, but I couldn't hear it over the It was so loud. It was so loud. And it was, I honestly thought that I was going to die. That's how I'm going to die. I'm going to, by hearing the Om. I mean, what? I didn't have time to think about this. Like, what? And then as soon as it started, it just stopped. And it was just the silence. I was just hearing my own breath, and I'm like, my heart's pounding. I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. That was the Om. That was the Om. That was actually the Om. And
amazing.
That, yes.
I mean, you connected directly right to source that night.
That's the sound of it.
Yeah.
That's the sound of everything. Yeah. So I've written down the whole integration, but most of it's not necessary. What it was very important, it was when I noticed when I wrote this down recently, that last paragraph is when I recently realized that there were two teachings in hearing the Om. There were two fundamental non-dual teachings when I heard the actual Om. And that was that it was in the head. I did not hear the Om in the heart. It was not in the heart at all. It was only here. And it was everything. It was the sound of everything. And for a while, I thought that the medicine had produced this sound. And it took a few years to realize she couldn't. There's no way she can produce this sound, because this sound is the sound of everything in the universe. It's everything. I can't believe it doesn't kill a human body to hear it. It may have in history. I don't know. And ayahuasca is a frequency, is a special medicine just for this planet. It may exist on another planet, I don't know, but on this planet, this is her cell phone. This is her medicine. It's extremely powerful, but it's only here. So the ayahuasca literally doesn't have the power to produce the Om. The Om, that's the self. That's the para-Brahman. That's, yeah.
Yeah.
And the first lesson I was, of course, hearing it in the head, not in the heart. So it's in the head. It's the Maya. It's the sound of the Maya. It's the sound of the entire Maya. So that was the first lesson. It's in the mind. It's not in the heart. And the sound came and went. It came and it went. So if it appears and disappears, it shows up and it's no longer there. If it's not always there, then it's not real. And that was the message. This is the Maya. It's the mind. It's the ego, and it's not real.
Right.
That was the message. It was so subtle, but unless you're looking for that with that reasoning ability, you'd never know. Right.
If it has a beginning, it has an end.
And that was my master's fundamental teaching. And he too, his teachings were just about parallel with Advaita Vedanta, but he refused to say that he was from this school or that school. He's just this.
Yeah, right. That's interesting.
It's the same.
Very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, this is, and the rest of the 2 years, she was basically prepping me, grooming me, purifying. It means making sure I stayed on that sattvic diet, answering any questions about diet changes or anything like that. And there came a time where she really put the smack down with the humility. I realized that I had a compassion problem. You have to, that was the lesson, is the long lesson is you have to go in the heart. You can sit there and read books and go in the mind. And there are people who really think they can do Advaita Vedanta intellectually, and then that's enough. And as long as they intellectually understand it, then they're good. And that they're lying to themselves, lying to anyone else that will listen, because you have to go in the heart. This is the great compassion. If you don't put it in the heart, and that is really hard to do. It's simple, but it's not always easy. It's not easy. I don't know. I've been yammering on here for a while now. What about you? Did you have any Advaita Vedanta?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the thing is, for me, it took me a while to get to Advaita Vedanta, and I think how I came to it, the path that took me there was, at first, it was, to end the suffering, and how the suffering is in our mind, the suffering is within our ego, our suffering isn't real. And then over and over again, still the mind, quiet the mind, learn to gain control of your mind. You need to take control of your mind. And, and that was, just hammered at me, for the first few years, gain control of mind.
From the medicine? The medicine actually was telling you this?
Yeah, both the medicine and through my studies, was, gain control of the mind, and then I've always had a really keen interest in the Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita, and I used to read them a lot. I think I first read it in 2015, and I had absolutely no understanding of it whatsoever. I tried my best. I read it really carefully, read it over and over again, and then I picked it up a little bit later. But it wasn't until I drank the medicine that I really began to understand what they were saying and what it was about. But it was very difficult. The terms in the books were, so wholly unfamiliar to me, and the names and the places, was so unfamiliar to me. that I really didn't get a grasp on what those books were saying, but then when I came upon Swami
Dr.
Priyananda,
Priyananda, I know
yeah,
him.
head of New York Vedanta Society,
Yeah.
following one of my surgeries, I began to listen to a lot of his lectures on YouTube, and I would always hear him. Well, first I would hear him mention Adi Shankara all the time. And he would always be referring back to the Upanishads and the Gita, and then I soon learned that the Upanishads and the Gita and Advaita Vedanta are connected, that's a path. It's a path that starts with the Upanishads, and I learned that the Upanishads basically simply just stated this fact that the ultimate reality exists, the Brahman exists, the Atman exists, and they had all the different sages stated how they came to this realization in their own way. But it didn't really say how we get there, and then the Bhagavad Gita begins to tell us, how we get to this Brahman state, the Atman state, and then Adi Shankara comes along with the Advaita Vedanta, and we begin to delve deeply into, a stronger understanding of the Atman, the Brahman, and, and this ultimate reality that pervades all of existence, and then, at that point, everything kind of fell into place, and I saw the path laid out very, very clearly, and I just, I jumped on it and, studied crazily for, a good year and a half, with the Upanishads, the Gita, all the Advaita Vedanta. I took some training with some woman out in Los Angeles or San Francisco, and yeah, and then, you connect that with the medicine, especially the 5-MeO, you begin to realize, you begin to experience, divine source energy, how we have this consciousness coursing through our bodies at all times.
You are that.
how we have this coursing through our bodies at all times, but we're not aware of it, because it's covered up with, all the cultural conditioning that we have going on in our life, the traumas that we've experienced in our life. So the key becomes quiet the mind and shut that conditioning up, shut that trauma up, and you will begin to feel divine source energy coursing through your body, and it will put you in a state of bliss, ecstasy, whatever you want to call it, and nothing in this world can stand before those states of ecstasy or bliss. Problems of the world just simply melt away, and it's fantastic, it's beautiful. Nothing compares to it, and if you're fortunate enough to experience that, again, the direct experience, you'll see and you'll understand, and for me, it's the one true path, what I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the work with the 5 was, so much about that. And actually, I wanted to talk to you. I wanted to ask you about what did you call it? Bufo Samadhi?
Oh, yeah, because as opposed to the regular Nirvikalpa Samadhi, because I had actually started experiencing Samadhis 2018. I don't know. There's been a lot of them. I don't even keep track of how many there's. They happen now and then. I used to be impressed. The first few were really made a mark because it was a big deal, and they all happened when I was alone. They all happened, in a safe place. It's not like when you're driving down the highway and you're going to go into Samadhi. You're not going to do that to yourself.
Yeah, no.
Because you are the self. You're not going to do that. If you're meant to have a Samadhi, it's going to happen when it's a safe time to happen. And it's always when I've been alone, or like I'm laying, sitting next to my son who was sleeping for that second or third one. And another time it woke me up at 4 a.m. for another one. The first one happened when I was in the shower here and at home alone. And I got out of the shower, I'm drying my hair, and all of a sudden the world disappears. And everything disappears completely. And I don't know what you call it, like the burning bush. It was the burning bush, and there was
Right.
frequency that came with it. It was the burning bush,
Yeah.
and that was it. I was like, whoa. And I was, impressed at the time. And oh my God.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
didn't dare tell anybody, because after what happened, when I tried to explain what happened with the Om, I know, no, I'm not telling anybody about this.
Don't understand.
And then
Yeah.
the second one was actually very instructive. It was, again, the Om, but this time broken down into like a samadhi PowerPoint. This is unbelievable. The whole, everything disappeared again, went back to the nothingness, the para-Brahman, and showcased what happens every time the universe is imagined into, is manifested. And this happens a zillion times a millisecond. That it's destroyed and manifested, destroyed and manifested. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But it was showing how in a slow-mo, basically the Big Bang, from going from the awareness of nothingness to like how everything becomes a focal point. And then the sound, the frequency happens first, and then boom. And I found out after that, because I never read the Bible, that that's literally what it says in the first part of the Christian Bible. Was that But first there's the word, and then the word was "let there be light" or something like that.
Exactly.
But that was interesting that was samadhi was showing, and it was showing the feeling and experience of the creation of an ego. And so they have been very educational. And there was one on karma that I had on karma. There's others on deity. I mean, others on portals, others on the Shiva Shakti. I mean, there's been so many. I just don't care anymore. I don't care. At this point, I'm like, they come, they go. But for some people, they want and need that spiritual experience, and they will go and get the bufo, which what I was saying was that is the artificial version, is the instigated artificial version of the samadhi, rather than going within and doing, because I was doing insane meditation. I was just obsessed with meditation at this time. That's why the samadhis I wasn't looking to have a samadhi. They just sort of happened. Same with the Kundalini. I'm working with mushrooms. In between ayahuasca sessions, I worked heavily with that ayahuasca and psilocybin for 2 solid years. I mean, I was like a machine, just going to town. This is not fun party time. This was, what do I have to do? What do I have to do? And I just fell into Ram Dass. I fell into, it was Nisargadatta Maharaj. I started listening to the sages, because Ram Dass couldn't cut anymore. I needed something stronger. And it was at the end of the 2 years where my boyfriend actually said, "Have you ever seen a film called Jnani?" And I went on, have you ever seen it?
No.
Oh,
No, I haven't.
Go on
Good
YouTube.
one, huh?
Free.
I'll check it out.
Jnani. Just Jnani. It's the documentary about my master.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, it's good. And so when that first opening scene comes up, and Bhagwan Sri Ramana Maharshi's face came up over, and I saw this is at the end of the time with ayahuasca. It was right before my last ayahuasca ceremony, because she always seemed like she had a time crunch. Like she was always like, time is of the essence. And I didn't know at the time that she had a schedule. She had a schedule.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I'm like, la la la, do ayahuasca. So yeah, towards the end of my last ayahuasca ceremony, this was, I think I saw the Jnani film right before that. It must have been December way before, because it was like February of 2019 was the last time I did ayahuasca as the ceremony. So I watched the Jnani film, and the opening scenes, they show my master's face come up. And I had never heard, in this incarnation, this is the beautiful part, of so unbiased, I'd never heard of Bhagwan Sri Ramana Maharshi. I'd never seen a picture of him. I didn't know anything about this at all. And his face comes up on the screen of the TV, and I see his eyes, and my heart knew him immediately. I knew him. I didn't know how, I didn't know where, but this, I knew it the minute. I can't, it's a bond you can't explain. And at that moment, that is your group. And I actually fell to the floor, and I'm shaking, and I'm crying in ecstasy. I mean, and I later would read, this happened to many of his devotees, that they would fall to the floor and start shaking. And I couldn't help it. I was at such ecstasy, and I prostrated immediately, and I knew this is my master. And I would later, a couple years, 3 years later, the memory would come back that he was indeed my master. And I was a very old, sick man. I was older than Ramana. I was older. when I found him. I didn't find him until I was an old man. And I had tuberculosis. And I remember dying. I remember, I can go into detail about it. I don't think we have enough time, but
yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
yeah. And so for the following 2 years after that, I was very rigid, listening to his recorded translated satsangs, and the Sargadatas helped a lot. My master had no qualms about seeing many sages. I've heard you should actually surround yourself with sages, and in this day and age, you can do that. You have YouTube.
Yeah.
Listen to the satsangs all the time, and that's is meditation. Listen to satsangs. The medicine had said goodbye to me in February of 2019. She said,
Really?
she had one more teaching for me. And she said, she showed me 2 earths, because anytime she spoke, she's speaking from the perspective of a planet, because she's a planet. And so we have to change our definition of what's alive and what's whatever.
Yeah.
She showed me 2 planets. She said, okay, destroy everything. And I was like, are you serious? She said, yes, destroy everything. So I destroyed, and there was nothing. She said, okay, bring it back. I brought it back. Okay, destroy it again.
Yeah.
And she had me a number of times, destroy. What she was saying is destroy duality, destroy duality. That's what she was telling me.
Yeah.
And she said, okay. She said, I cannot go any further. Where you're going, I cannot go. And she pointed to a star off in the darkness. She said, that's where you need to go. You need to go there. And what she was pointing at was myself. And I was very intimidated. I was frightened, but I knew she was right.
Right. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So I just followed my master's instructions. He said self-surrender. He came to me in meditation after that ayahuasca ceremony. I sat on the couch and right here, and I just felt the need to meditate. And I sat down, and he came to me immediately in a vision. He showed himself prostrating to himself, like this, prostrating to himself, and instructed, and it's like telepathic. And because at this point, I don't care if the Jnani has a body or not. It was actually better he didn't, so I wouldn't be attached to the form. Yeah. And so he gave specific instruction. At first, I thought it bhakti yoga, and it appeared to be bhakti, but it was transcending into oneness. And that's so it wasn't supposed to stay fixated on the 2. It's not about 2. It's about
non-duality.
2.
Yeah. That's what Advaita is all about. Non-duality.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Not
Just
2.
one.
And that was the teachings that came through the sages, was the stuff you learn in Advaita Vedanta. This place is not real. The ultimate reality is that which never changes. And if you abide in the self, you understand that, you focus on that, not which not changes. Those medicines made that possible, made all of this possible.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have, how many more incarnations would there have been to get, I mean, countless.
Right. Yeah. That's why, some people kind of frown on the use of the plant medicines and whatnot, but I mean, I kind of see it as, we should be very grateful that we have these available to us. The ancient sages, who could go off in the caves and meditate for 12 years and have these experiences was great. Yeah. But by and large, for the regular person, these experiences weren't available to them. But now with the oncoming, psychedelic renaissance, these experiences are becoming more and more available to the average Joe, and it's like everybody's birthright to experience this, to experience our true nature, our true self. So I don't see it like as cheating or whatever someone might say.
No, because it's not an accident.
Yeah.
It's not an accident that you got your hands in that.
Right.
It's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
Wonderful divine gift. Gosh, yeah. Wow. Are we over time? Or
I don't know. Hoping Ruby's gonna jump in and say something here to us. How are we doing, Ruby?
No, that was beautiful. Thank you so much. It was so immersive, and I am so engrossed into how passionately you walked us through your journey, talked about your journey. That was like I was able to visualize it myself. So thank you so much. I had a quick question, and then I'd like to open it up to our wonderful audience over here. So my quick question is, after all of that experience and knowing that as the reality, how difficult or how easy is it to integrate back into regular, ordinary life that now is the illusion?
Oh, it's so fun. Oh my gosh. This is so fun because there's no attachment and you don't care. It's like you're walking, like you're playing a video game, you're watching a movie, and at every point, you know, it's not real, but there's still the great compassion. There's still the great compassion. So if the apparent other is having a hard time, the traumatic experience, you couldn't possibly go up to them and say, "Oh, suck it up, it's not real." You couldn't possibly do that. No, because they are you, even if they are another manifestation of yourself. This is abidance in the self. So if they are crying, if they're sad, you cry with them. I mean, you yourself cannot suffer. It's kind of like being like those, you ever see those lab tanks? It's like a glass tank and they have the gloves that you can stick your hands in. They're built into the tank, and you can interact with what's in the tank, but you're not really part of it. You know, you're not really subjected to it. Nothing in the tank can actually touch you or hurt you. You become the Mandukia frog. You become the Mandukia. You can be in all the filth and it can't touch you, and nothing can bother you. There's no loneliness. There's no fear. There's no anger. There's only the Satchitananda is all that's left. That's all that's felt. It's how the heart went silent, just like Robert Adams said, probably in his book. I've never read his book, but it's called Silence of the Heart, I think. And he was another devotee of Bhagwan Ramana Maharshi, spontaneous like Ramana, came that fast. But I don't know if you know much about him. He could manifest things. When he was a kid, he could walk outside a candy store and he would look at the candy store and say, "Candy, candy, candy," and candy would appear in his hand. Like he was an extremely advanced being. And so a realization happened when he was about 14, and Ramana was still alive, but very old. And he was able to go over and meet with him. He was over there for about 3 years and came back. But I digress totally. But back to the silence of the heart, though. That's exactly what it is. The heart goes completely silent, and you realize you are the Buddha statue. You've always been the Buddha statue, and that is an extremely high teaching, because it's the compassion is so great. There's nothing but silence. The silence is always there. It's always there. It's always there. It's wonderful. And there's nothing but peace. There's always inner peace, but the responses are appropriate. So as like I have a little child, just like you, Ruby, and he's run into the living room and he's waving a knife and trying to get a reaction, and he doesn't get a reaction from his mommy. No, maybe from his dad or somebody, but not from mommy. He gets a response. He'll get an appropriate response, but he will not get a reaction. There's no one left to react. There's no one there. Yeah. There's just only peace. It's like feeling like the first few weeks after the switch flipped, after it was complete surrender. After that, there was 3-4 weeks or whatever it was of like a super high of literally doing the Shiva dance in my kitchen, the Shiva dance of triumph and you understand the triumph that you are Shiva, and it actually does mellow out after a few weeks, and then the dispassion gets really deep. And you just don't care about anything, but not in a bad attitude way. It's in a loving way. It's like in a very like.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Nothing can bother you. You never have a bad day. You never have a bad day. You have nothing to worry about because everything's scripted and everything's taken care of. And it's just, there's so much I could talk about this. Oh gosh. But if anybody is interested, if they want to, because I'll forget if I don't say it right now. I have a Facebook page just where I just talk about just this, so I don't have all my family stuff. It's one is that I feel like I think you see. Look for that on Facebook. You can message me on that privately or whatever, and I'll always talk. If I don't get to you right away, I'll get to you at some point. But
I'm
yeah.
also going to write down the name of the Facebook page here in chat, so that our audience can go look for it. Beautiful. So now I'd like to open it up to our audience and see if anybody has questions or comments that they would like to share with our wonderful speakers. Okay, so at any point you have questions or comments, you are most welcome to leave them in the chat. We will have access to your questions and comments, and we will send it to the speakers you want us to send it to. And I left the title of Samantha's Facebook page on the chat, and you can go look at it. It's a beautiful page with a lot of wisdom over there. So I'm sure you're going to absolutely love it. Thank you so much, guys. I cannot tell you how very grateful I am. This has been so wonderful. Thank you so very much.